Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the week. And with me, as always, we've got Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So how are you guys doing? How's everything so far?
Does not suck.
That's always a good place to begin.
Yeah.
I set a high bar.
Yeah.
You know what, though? Some days, that's about the best we can do. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I whenever I'm on the ski lift going up and they say, how's your day going? I say, it doesn't suck.
Right?
Usually get some good laughs.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, just because I know you guys are going to call me on it anyways, since I missed last episode.
Rules is rules.
Rules is rules.
Yep.
I've got to go first. So, I'm sorry, everyone, that I had to miss last episode, but full confession, I had myself a little mini fit, shall we say. Sunday morning, I woke up and I was out of sorts all last week, which part of it, I understand why. I was hyper emotional, shall we say, because it was given that, not to go into too much detail, folks, but, you know, women get emotional sometimes. So I was getting emotional, which I knew that was coming, along with, you know, stressors of work and different things. And so things were piling up, and I could feel them piling up and piling up and piling up. And medicine wasn't helping, and I couldn't quite get my head around everything. And I could feel it growing, and all of a sudden, Sunday morning, it exploded. And unfortunately, my husband was the wonderful recipient. So, yeah, I will say I made some really valid, good points. So it wasn't, you know, completely wackadoodle. But
way to justify it. Yeah.
I will stand by. There were some really solid points that were made during this argument. But it was a touch on the dramatic side. Didn't need to necessarily be that dramatic. a little over dramatic. But the world seemed to be ending at that moment. And it didn't really need to be the world's ending type of a moment.
So while you were staring at the trees, you went, oh, a forest.
More like look at that tree. That tree is going to die. That tree is going to die now. That tree's going to die now.
Well, you obviously are very enamored with some of your trees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very concerned.
Yes. Very enamored with the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the funny part about it was the Christmas tree was one of the talking points.
Ah.
And where the placement of the Christmas tree shall be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I'm very big on my Christmas, and, you don't mess with my Christmas.
Mm.
Yeah, as Brian can attest to, my tree is pretty important to me.
Yep.
Don't
So you found a hill worth dying on, huh?
I did. And I was going to die a valiant death on that hill. Yep. So Sunday, that's how my Sunday started. And for the rest of the day, it was more recovery mode than it was anything else. So come Sunday night, my body and my head were just done. So I had to, I have every other week bowling with my dad and a friend of mine and my husband. So we went to bowling, and at bowling I was fighting to stay awake. And that's pretty impressive when you're in the middle of a bowling alley and you feel yourself nodding off. So I'm like, okay, think I need to take a time out and have a little recoup.
Yeah.
But surprisingly enough, the next morning I woke up and everything was much lighter. So my whole psyche and everything just lightened and brightened up.
Well, like I remember when I told Henno about sometimes you just got to have a temper tantrum and get it all out of your system, and then you're fine. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and thankfully I have a husband that understands, and and he is very good at not taking the bait. So you understand what that means, folks?
Right.
Those of you in relationships can understand, I'm sure, that there was some very juicy bait that was laid out for him that he did not take. He was smart enough to recognize what it was.
Man.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't like doing, and I pride myself as not laying traps very often.
Yeah.
But I'm not even gonna try to pretend that there weren't some traps laid on Sunday morning.
Right.
So, but yes, so he managed to make it through with all limbs intact, and and we're doing good. So, there's no worries there. We're doing just fine. And I feel much better now that I've had my temper tantrum, got it out of my system. And I'm looking forward to having a few days. He's going hunting this weekend, so I get a few days of me time. And fight the urge to put my Christmas tree up early. And all that good jazz. Oh, and work update, because I've been kind of talking about work a lot on here. We are now up to 5 people on the team, which is a good number. So we're going to stay at this place for at least the next couple months till the end of the year. So from here on out to the end of the year, I should be, knock on wood, everyone stays healthy and everything stays the way it is now. I should still be looking at my 45-hour week, which is perfect and very, very good place for me to be mentally and physically. So
good.
So that's my week in a nutshell. How about you guys? Who wants to go next?
Well, it's only been a few days for the two of us.
Yeah.
Lots can happen in a few days. And I need to catch up on the podcast, but
Mm-hmm. I told you last week, Henno. Remember I said she doesn't listen.
I'm so bad. I'm not allowed to. I just can't listen to podcasts at work anymore, and it's put me so far behind on my podcast listening.
Yeah,
so I apologize.
Yeah, not much has happened for me. Like Henno said, it's only been 3 days for us, so really hasn't been a lot of opportunity for stuff to happen either. But Yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to think if anything has really happened, but I can't think of anything. It's been a pretty quiet, 3 days. I haven't really done anything.
Oh, wait, I got one.
Huh?
We woke up on the right side of the grass 3 days in a row.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I went out. I went out last night with friends, as we do every other week, to trivia, and we finally got our head out of our butts and got second place. So that's
Yay.
yeah, that was kind of cool. And there were a lot. I mean, there was 15 teams, I think they said last night. So,
Wow.
Yeah, place was pretty full.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a turnout.
yeah. But it was, it's always fun. If nothing else, it's always a good time hanging out with friends for a couple hours or whatever, and stuff. So yeah, I did that, and yeah, I got nothing else. I have a therapy appointment tomorrow. Hopefully I don't forget like I have the last two. And
Right.
I have 2 alarms set on my phone.
How's the whole dental stuff going?
Oh, good. Where the wisdom tooth was removed is pretty much healed. It's still a little tender, but it's, for the most part, it's pretty healed. And then next week I go in on Tuesday to have the other one taken out, which is smart. Nothing like, having a tooth removed 2 days before Thanksgiving. So.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Well, it could be worse. I had my tonsils taken out, when I was a senior in high school. I had them taken out, like on December 23rd, there's usually like a talent show at the school we went to. And that day is the day I went in to have my tonsils taken out. So, yeah.
I actually had my wisdom teeth pulled, 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've been in your shoes.
This won't be that bad though, because it's just one, and all I have to do is just avoid eating on that side and don't eat anything, just soft foods, which most of the stuff from Thanksgiving is,
Yes.
so it shouldn't be too bad, hopefully.
No. And Hanno, are you now fully recovered from all of your campaigning and all of the craziness that was your life for the last couple months?
Yeah, pretty much. I managed to go back to the gym and actually enjoy being there, and back to podcasting. Actually, yeah, this is going to be my 3rd podcast in 4 days.
Really?
Wonderful.
Wow, nice.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah, because we did Crazy Life on Sunday night. I did Gotham Lights last night. Yeah, and this, and so that's coming back to normal. That's why on Monday night I went to the city council meeting.
Nice.
And it was really fun. I was walking upstairs and everyone's like, "Hey, it's Henno!"
Right.
and knowing people in the community now and just having a different level. And once again, it was, turns out that there's 2 openings on Parks and Lands, and a couple of people came up to me and said, "Hey, thanks for, stepping up to do that. It looks like pretty much I'm a guaranteed in on that." So, and what was really interesting is my opponent in the election wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, wouldn't you want to know
Yeah.
what's going on, B, how they do things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just different in that regard.
Right.
It just made me chuckle.
Yeah.
It's
Now-
like, yeah, well, but that's who she is.
Is there anywhere online that those can be watched?
Nope.
No? Okay.
All you can do is read the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Yeah.
like a live cast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say if there was some
Yeah,
way you could
nothing like
watch it
that.
online, yeah. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
But still, there's just things like there's protocols and
Yeah.
procedures
Sure,
and
sure.
little things like that, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's indicative of, well, it's like I said, it's who she is. I think she's gonna, best of luck, but I think she's gonna have a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a different deal. She's used to running stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get to run this. You're low on the totem pole.
Yeah, you
there's
really are.
3 others with seniority over you.
Yeah.
And those are, and there's it's part of how motions are, who motions for things, it's based on hierarchy,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and some things like that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying staying involved with it. I'm enjoying being part of my community. And I've even I had one person email me and say, you should run for county commissioner in 2 years and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, that's a partisan position.
Yeah.
Meaning, you actually Democrat, Republican, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a different level.
Mm.
The county is 18,000 people.
Yeah, it is a different level for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not really that into getting involved with, party politics.
Right. Yeah.
As much. So at any rate, that's all. That's everything's worked out great. And I continue to have people just, come up to me in the middle of the gym and say, hey, I just wanted to say, thanks for doing that. Just from the standpoint of it's, that it's great that someone's willing to do it, and good for you kind of stuff, and next time you'll even do better and, and that kind of stuff. And so it's like I've said over and over again, it's been a great experience.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And it's supposed to snow tonight, and luckily the 5 to 9 inches is now only 3 to 7, which is a little happier.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be warmer and rain. But this is it. First one of the year.
Yep.
Oh boy.
It's just a little early for us. We don't usually get a good dumping until in December. Usually, everything's man-made snow on the ski hill and blah blah blah. But I booked a trip to go to Atlanta again in December. Get out of town a little bit.
Cool.
And I was also just, ski season starts. Got ski pass again. Just things to look forward to.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been picking up the guitar again a little bit. Just kind of taking care of business. Back to routine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. But it was like my song. It's gonna snow. I better rake the rest of the leaves. I literally have been just picking up little things around the house, but not really prioritizing anything because there's always been something else to do.
Right.
So, at any rate,
that's was it a Monday? I think it was. We kind of did that here, where went through, got the leaves out of the way. My sister did, pulled the stuff from the garden that needed to be pulled out. From where my mom has flowers and stuff. Just did that kind of stuff. And we've got the plastic over the windows now, and but my mom decided to put all the Christmas stuff up, so because she also, like Jen, my mom loves Christmas, so
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did promise though that even though Dan is gone for the weekend, I'm still not going to put my Christmas stuff up. He's not going to come home to Christmas because I can't put Christmas up until the day after Thanksgiving.
Right.
So I'm like, all right.
Did you see my little video on my Facebook page?
No.
Of the dog? So there's there's a little dog on a couch. It's a video, and the dog has some sort of antlers or some sort of Christmas thing on the dog's head, and then the older dog, the bigger dog, goes up and grabs them with his mouth and pulls them off the little dog. and the caption underneath is what you do with friends who start putting
yes,
who
start doing Christmas before Thanksgiving,
right?
Yes.
Well, it's funny though, because I told this on Salty Language, but one of my friends, I reference her on that show a lot. She lives in Toronto, and she's already got her whole house decked out in Christmas, and it's funny because up there it's not early because they already have their Thanksgiving out of the way. So once Halloween is over, it's all Christmas. It's that's pretty much the beginning of Christmas season. And here it is if you work retail. But, I mean, honestly, 3 months ago, it was the beginning of Christmas. But, it's so weird because it doesn't, I don't know. It's weird in my head. It doesn't feel like it, but then you walk outside and I was telling you guys before we started, it's we're getting January weather here. So weather-wise, aside from there's been no snow yet, aside from that, it feels like winter, so there's that. But yeah, it's, something else I was going to bring up that I've really noticed this week, actually, I forgot this, was since we did the time change, I feel like it is so much later than it is. Not like an hour, but I've been feeling like it. Like last night, I looked at the clock. It was like 5:30. I was like, wow, it feels like it's 8 o'clock. Like it just seemed way later, and it's been that way, since the time change. And then yesterday too is like I came home from trivia, and I went in and I was sitting in my bed watching TV, and next thing you know, I woke up and it's like 3 hours later, and I was like, what the heck? Like I rarely ever do that. Normally I have to wait until I'm exhausted to fall asleep, but for some reason I was just out, and I was like, well, I'm going to go to bed now, and I ended up sleeping until like 4 o'clock today. Part of it was I had a headache all day, but it was just weird how I just had nothing. I had no energy. It was just like, oh, I need to sleep. So, yeah.
Well, maybe it's your body adjusting, and you'll start being able to sleep better.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, does that make you happier?
If I would have woke up like fresh as a daisy, I would be. But I woke up and I was kind of like,
But I mean, just that if your time adjusts, would that make you?
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, I'm sure I'll get used to that, and that probably has a little something to do with it. But like, I was joking with somebody. We were talking about the time change, and I was like, for everybody else, it's an hour more asleep. I was like, for me, it's an hour more awake.
Right.
I was like, the people don't think about how this affects insomniacs and such.
That's funny.
Yeah, once that adjusts, I'm sure it'll help. Again, though, like I said last week, I think a lot of it is seriously every day is overcast. It's just gray and blah every day. And it also probably doesn't help that I need to get a refill on my vitamin D supplement. So I'm getting that tomorrow, but because that I'm sure it'll help too. Well, even with that supplement, I'm still coming in low on my blood work for vitamin D. So, but there's no sun to go sit in.
You got to get yourself a sunlight.
Well, that's what my psychiatrist actually mentioned to me last week. The problem is insurance won't cover them. And
they are expensive.
They're like $200 or so. So yeah, it's, but if I could, I probably would, because I would get a lot of benefit out of that, I'm sure. Especially this time of year, because like I said, up here, it's literally gray from like the middle to late October all the way through January, March, or February. I mean, something like that, so no fun.
Nope. No fun at all. But so I guess we can move on to our topic of the day. And Hanno, you've got our article?
Yes, I do. And we are going to be piggybacking off of this last week's article that Brian and I talked about. It's the same author, Marcia Reynolds. And this was kind of a link on the bottom of last week's article. And this one is called Go with the Flaw, How to Make Peace with Mistakes and Uncertainty. And this actually ties back in with something that I had brought up a couple weeks ago about one of my favorite readings in a book that I have, where it talks about, we learning how to become the master of your own universe. How, that we, when you, this is your opportunity to have control of yourself. I just like the way that this is kind of a twist on that. So I'm going to read it's actually a nice little read here, but it says, I saw the sign, Go with the Flaw, on a boat in Venice. I was hauling my huge suitcase over a bridge when it passed by. I had no idea that there would be no taxis to take us to our apartment. I had no idea how many bridges with steps I would have to drag my bag over. I had no idea that when we finally reached the apartment, I would have to lug it up 4 more stories of steep, narrow stairs. It is in the moments of realizing our mistakes, pushing through difficulties, and feeling stupid, whipped, or embarrassed that we are actually most powerful. It is in these moments we can sink into darkness or choose to get back up and find the light. This post is not just for perfectionists who can't sleep for fear of making an error. It is also for pragmatists who don't dare to dream because of the likelihood of false starts, missteps, or unexpected outcomes. When nothing is disturbing you, your emotions are either stable or uplifted. You can go about your day without thinking about how you feel. The moment your peace is disrupted is when you realize you've acted foolishly, or you face a future you fear is out of your control. You have the opportunity to make the moment a crisis or an adventure. You can feel tortured with humiliation or uncertainty, or calmed with humor and humility. It is your response that decides what comes next. You have the power to create the climate, rain or shine.
That's well put.
Yeah, and that's one reason I like this, because it goes back to that thing where I said, I like this one reading that I do where it talks about, that it's my responsibility to act, appropriately in situations, that I control my insides. I am the master of my domain,
right?
How I want to act, and that it is my prerogative, meaning it's my choice about how I want to react in any situation. And it's a very high bar because it's not easy, because it also tells me that I need to be responsible, and I don't always want to be responsible.
Right. Yeah.
But this reminds me that in any situation, I just like this part where it says, the moment your peace is disrupted, when you realize you've acted foolishly or you face future fears out of control, you can make it into a crisis or an adventure. It can be a comedy or a horror movie. I love those little analogies.
So true, yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to a comedian earlier today on radio, coming home from work, and the comedian was saying, women have a tendency to laugh at stuff. One woman slips and falls down. It's like, oh, silly me. I can't believe I fell. And the guys will, slip on something like, oh, who put that there? Oh, we need to figure, and grump about it.
Fixer.
But it's the same, and I don't necessarily think that's gender specific. He made it so for comedy's sake.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. There's two ways of looking at things, and I've always been the glass half full versus the glass half empty girl. I've always been try to look on the positives and try to find humor and laughter and things, and not take myself or my life too seriously. But it is a choice, and people don't necessarily recognize it all the time, that you do have a choice. It is a choice that you have to actively make. You cannot choose your feelings. You can choose your actions, though.
Yeah. And it really becomes like muscle memory if you've been, seeing things negatively for years and years and years, and then something happens. It is really difficult to then start seeing things the other way. I'm speaking from experience here with, what I've gone through, but you just have to chip away at it. And like you said, if you, once you start looking at every situation and applying things to each situation, you start seeing it become easier and easier, to go the opposite way. So yeah, it's,
and especially when you look at, we've had a lifetime of insecurity, a lifetime of, there was a moment in all of our in all of our lives, in our development as human beings, and this is kind of touches back to something I talked about with you guys before. We started podcasting. That there's a group of Christian monks led by Father John Keating. He's still alive today, and he has really gone into this kind of an Eastern type of philosophy with meditation and contemplative prayer, and looking at the human condition and why it is the way we are, how it is that, and going away from the kind of the traditional Western Christian ways of doing things. And one of the things they talk about is that point in our lives where we become self-aware, where ego steps up. And it's that place where, parents notice this in their children, where they're suddenly a little more self-conscious. The door gets locked. The hugs and the love and that stuff isn't, and they're suddenly, grossed out or whatever it is, or they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And this gets really, accented at school when the first time, you do like trip and fall and somebody makes fun of you. They don't come and pick you up.
Yeah.
They push you back down. And that starts that a lot of us go inside. I was like that. I was very shy. And, I became very self-conscious. And so you have an entire lifetime of being in your head. And so when something disturbs you, you fall back into that pattern. Yep. And it can create a cycle, because then we might lash out and then it works against us again. We lash out. So this article gives us a few tips on how we can take some action here. And this really has to do with mind settling techniques. And when the flow of your day is disturbed by a flaw, what can you do to settle your mind? And the first item brought up is schedule reflection moments into your day to create a habit of pausing your brain. Set your phone or calendar to go off 2 or 3 times a day and ask yourself these questions. What am I feeling? What is the truth about the situation? State what occurred with no judgment as to right or wrong. Am I making things worse or better? What is the next step I can take to honor my strengths and move forward with the best intentions for a good result? What is the lesson learned I can use in the future? So this is truly what Brian, you were talking about, is start to practice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to practice is not to wait when you need it, but to just practice all the time, whether you need it or not.
Right.
So this is what number 1 is giving us an opportunity to do.
Right, because by practicing, it makes it to where it becomes muscle memory. So when you do need it, it's your instinct at that point. Again, like a fighter, they practice their technique and escapes and stuff, because once they step into like an octagon, they get kicked in the face or punched in the face. It's harder to think logically, but you kind of go on instinct at that point. And it's very similar in the same kind of way. A lot of times life will just punch you right in the face, and you need your instinct to stay positive or stay there, rather than immediately, catastrophizing and going the other way.
Jen, weren't you sharing something about like that, not a good habit, but smoking is an opportunity for you to kind of do something like this?
Yeah. Smoking is kind of my break. And speaking of which, I've actually cut down to not even one a day. So
Yay.
Getting close to getting rid of them. Yeah, it's kind of my break. I don't really get a lunch hour. I don't get a lunch break. I don't get any scheduled breaks within my day. So the only time I get up from my desk is to go to the bathroom or to go outside and have a cigarette. So that has become my break and my moment to kind of step away and get my head together and stuff. So, smoking is not something to be recommended by any stretch, but there's nothing wrong with just getting up from your desk and taking those breaks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Don't have to have a cigarette. You can just take the break.
Yep.
So often we get caught up in what we're doing and staring at our screens and working on projects, and one thing leads to another, and pretty soon the entire day's gone and you haven't looked up. It's not healthy. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for your soul. So definitely take your breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the tips that they bring in here are very much part of like what we do with 12-step programs as well, where you look at situations, the truth about a situation without judgment, meaning view it as an inventory. Mm-hmm. If you just had a tough phone call or you had a tough conversation, or something happened at work with a coworker or a customer or whatever that is to evaluate it as honestly as possible. Keep the shouldas out of it, keep the entitlement out of it, keep the, who I am out of it.
Right.
And just look at it as like, okay, what actually happened? Okay, what made it worse or better? What can I do to change it in the future? And that's a key part of constructive criticism, when you get criticism from others, and more importantly, when we criticize ourselves. Mm-hmm. is to these are opportunities. They don't have to be beat downs if we don't want them to be.
Yeah, true. Speaking of beating something down, though, this all really reflects on like distorted thinking. You know,
really.
You know, so
shocked.
Yeah, I know, right? So, you know, like Henna was just saying, like, you know, not including would'ves and should'ves, that's on that list. Not catastrophizing, that's on the list. You know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you're someone that has issues with this, you know, look up, you know, distorted thinking, you know, ways to help with that, because it really has made a big difference for me. You know, like I said, I still think to this point it's probably the best tool that I've gotten from therapy was when she handed me those sheets, because I really do stop and apply it a lot. You know,
I think they're great rules for evaluation.
Yeah, exactly.
Objective evaluation.
Right. Because their goal is to help you stay here and realize and use tools to actually determine basically, like, you know, am I safe? Is everything okay? Is this really the end of the world? You know? And most of the time what you'll find is when you start asking those questions, you'll start going, no, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah. All right, you know, and a lot of times it ends up almost being the same thing you would get if you had a conversation with somebody and you were like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. Blah. And they were just like, no, but this just happened. No one cares. This, you know, like it helps you step away from the forest a little bit, or from the trees, I guess I should say, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I always equate to is when I start finding myself thinking that something's huge, you know, I made a faux pas and it's beyond me. It's huge. It's, you know, so overwhelming. I'm so incredibly embarrassed. And I stop and I put it up against, I'm like, okay, Super Bowl, you know, clock's ticking down. It's the last play of the game and you trip. That's embarrassed. Mm-hmm. You know, what I did, I made a faux pas that, you know, yeah, it's embarrassing, but is it that level of embarrassing where millions and millions of people are watching me trip and fall and make a fool of myself? Okay, no. It's not that level of embarrassing. So when I stop and I can put some perspective around circumstances, it helps me to put it back in its rightful place. Because, yeah, to me, something's good, you know, it can be completely overwhelming because I get so embarrassed. But I also know that part of my condition makes things bigger than they are. So it's just a natural part of what my head does to me. So it could be something that nobody even notices, but my head's telling me I should be 5,000 shades of red embarrassed. Yep. But, you know, nobody notices.
And that's exactly what kind of the tip number 2 is, to breathe in an emotion that opens your heart. Your emotions can send you into a tailspin of guilt, shame, or blame. And that's what you're talking about. You feel shame, there's guilt or whatever it is. Your emotions can also release you to explore, create, and relate, even when you wish you had done something else. So once again, we have opportunity here. Which emotion do you want to go into? All right. How do we go into exploration, creativity, and relativity instead of guilt, shame, or blame? Well, use photographs of your family, pets, friends, or enjoyable places you have visited to spark feelings of love and gratitude. And that ties into one quote I hear all the time: is a heart full of gratitude cannot harbor a resentment.
Good one.
You know, if you leave the house full of gratitude and joy, even the worst road rage the guy that wants to have all the road rage, you can just let them go.
Yeah.
Because you're you're in your happy place.
Yeah.
Well, who cares about that guy? You know.
Right. Well, and for photos and stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say with photos and stuff, since we all have phones, is create a file or a folder on your phone and just put like again friends, good pictures from a good time, things you really enjoy. Just put that all in there. Essentially, like make it a vision board. Really is
a gratitude album.
Yeah, and then if you need
That's
to scroll through that, you could also do the same thing on your notepad with things you're grateful for. So
yeah.
So another thing you can do is along the same lines of what I was just talking about. Stop and think. What I did, will my loved ones still love me for? In spite of this. Most of the time, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, it's, if you can break it down and you can put it in that perspective and kind of what you're saying, Henna, was, and control the emotion behind it and really start to think about it and break it down and say, I saw I used the wrong word. Yes, it's embarrassing, but, my mom will still love me. Even though I said the wrong word. It's like, oh, my husband, he still loves me even though I said the wrong word. Mm-hmm. And if you can start breaking it down and it's like, well, I guess I can still love me even though I said the wrong word or I used the wrong word or I made the wrong decision. So if you can really process yourself through it versus letting the emotions take 100% control, you can get yourself to a better place.
Yeah, that's one of the items here is remember your purpose, your faith, and your sense of wonder about the grander scheme of life.
There you go.
And then their other one is exactly what Brian said, is keep a file of notes people have sent you, acknowledging your contribution, and papers that denote your achievements to activate your pride. It's kind of the same thing, like a gratitude list or even they're just reminders that that you are worthwhile.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
That you've done positive things. And I think it's important to have those things because it's so easy for us to call ourselves worthless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one is place trinkets on your desk that make you smile or laugh.
That's an old customer service trick.
Yep. The old knickknacks.
Yeah, that's an old customer service trick is, if you're smiling on the phone, your voice is smiling through it. Yep. So, it's anything that you can do to help bring you to a more positive place, you got to go there. And be wary, people, because there's going to be people who are out to bring you to the negative side. So even something that maybe you aren't really getting on yourself about, they will bring it up and mention it to you to bring you down and get you going down that bad path.
So true. Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So be very cautious and try to avoid those people. If you can't avoid them, try to, like we talked about the other day on the 2 weeks ago on the podcast, you can't avoid the negative people, then you have to try to minimize your experiences with them and try to make the most positive conversations you can with them. Try to avoid going down that negative path because they will take you in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And that I love that analogy of it could be a horror movie or it could be a comedy. Okay, so take the visuals of the horror movie and put a laugh track behind it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That person can suddenly seem very different.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put the laugh track in the background. And I do that for myself. It's like I can beat myself up or I can just laugh at myself and laugh at me being me.
And that's how you defeat a Bogart in Harry Potter. See, another Harry Potter reference 2 times in a row, folks. Bogarts are your worst fear. They'll come at you with your worst fear, and the only way to combat it and make it disappear is you go ridiculous, and you imagine it in a very funny situation, and you laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, I think she's trying to compete with the distorted thinking list.
I think so. It's not going to work.
Bring up this Bogart thing again.
All I can say, though, is when you're trying to picture something good or ridiculous, just make sure it's not Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes, exactly. Never. Yes.
Nixon movies.
And our last tip is probably the hardest. and we talk about it a lot, and it's not easy, is learn how to quiet your mind. Too much self-bashing, too much worry, and too much pessimism can create a default state of gloom. Many companies are teaching sitting meditation as a way to refresh the mind. You can also learn active meditation, where you walk or hike in nature, noticing the beauty of the world around you. Can you shift into a state of admiration and awe for life? Your reactions will dissipate when you realize that nature, though flawed, is rich with possibilities. And that's, I think, back to my good buddy Father John Keating and his the idea of a centering prayer or a contemplative prayer is this idea of, like, I want to take the religious stigma out of this. Not talking about, I mean, if there's a prayer you like, Serenity Prayer, Lord's Prayer, whatever it is, definitely do it. But that's part of this deal, is to rather than try to sit quietly, is to repeat a mantra, something maybe you've heard that you love. Repeat a prayer that might be close to your heart, something that's helped you in the past. There's a million of them, but it doesn't have to be religious. It could be any sort of inspirational thought, that kind of stuff. And it's more of an active way of meditation. So if you do have a difficult time sitting quietly and just focusing on your breathing, there are other ways to do it, like they suggested walking or repeating something. But the most important part of it is it gets you out of where you were. Right.
Because the biggest key with negative thinking, racing thoughts, depression, all these kind of things is breaking the cycle. That's the most important. Like, once you do that, you can at least have a chance to, if it's just negative, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's an opening. It's kind of like the roundabout scene in, was it European Vacation? Where he just keeps going in a circle forever. It's like at some point, he's looking for that out. Well, when you finally get that opportunity to go, if you go on down a positive path instead of a negative path, it can help you stay off of that cycle, at least for a little bit, otherwise it's so easy to just stay right there in that spiral.
And use your visualizations, folks. Use all those tools that you have in that toolbox. But I use visualization all the time. One of the ones I learned back in high school, so I've been doing this for over 20 years, that it's the scissors in the film. So I'm showing my age, folks. The film reel, if you take what's going on in your head and you project it onto a piece of film, and you take scissors and you cut it all up and you blow it away. And if you keep repeating those motions in your head, so thoughts start racing, put them on the film, cut them up, blow them away. Keep doing that over and over again, and you will mentally start training your brain that when you want to stop thinking about something, you're thinking about something. You can prevent yourself from racing and going down those spirals. That's just one technique. There's a million of them out there. If you Google some visualization techniques and stuff, there's so many that you can use, and use ones that seem to fit you the best, for sure. That one's just one that stuck with me that I use all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's the great thing is, and this kind of in closing here, is I do believe that we have the power to create our reality. Mm-hmm. And the minute that give yourself an opportunity to succeed, try something like that, a visualization skill. When it works, it'll make you more excited to try it again. And, that way you can maybe, even if you don't necessarily have to walk away feeling like, oh, wow, everything changed. But maybe if you just stop the spinning cycle, like Brian talked about. Yeah. And if you can't stop the spinning cycle, like if you really have a hard time with these techniques and they're not working for you, it might be a good indication that, professional help might be a therapist, something like that, can help you with getting through whatever it is that keeps bringing you down.
Yep.
And I like how she ends this is, back in Venice, when we reached the top of the stairs, panting and groaning, we fell through the door laughing. The boat saved the day. for reminding us to go with the flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And it so reminds me of how many times have you had just one of those days, whether it's traveling or work or whatever it is, that at some point you finally stop and reflect on it and you just start to laugh at it. Like just how ridiculous it was. Like it was just such a nightmare, but in the end, it's really funny.
Yeah.
Do you know why you share those stories? It's because that moment of pain or embarrassment or stress, you share those stories with other people so you can laugh with other people about it. And pretty soon, instead of it becoming this negative point in your life, it becomes a positive that you are sharing with other people and bringing other people in. And it becomes this joyous occasion that really, all intents and purposes, shouldn't be joyous, but it becomes joyous strictly because you've made it so.
Yeah.
You've put that out there. I mean, I can't tell you, if I make a fool of myself, I am the first one to tell the world. Strictly because it takes the sting away for me. Mm-hmm. It takes that sting away and it replaces that sting with this moment of joy. It's like, can you believe how silly that was, or how dumb, and it becomes these stories that stitch a fabric of a beautiful blanket that becomes your life. These moments are so important. Yeah, they're painful. Yeah, they're hard to go through sometimes, but if you make it through, that's another story that you can add to your catalog that you can laugh about and you can, reminisce about and say, remember that time we did this? It was awful, but it was so much fun too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. The one that'll always stand out for me will be the pants splitting in a funeral,
That'll do it.
I couldn't wait to tell people that story. And we were laughing about it the day it happened, like as, right after it happened,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a little feeling of guilt for, not ruining, but, altering the situation because we had to leave
early. But
okay. But I've told that story so many times to people. Because it makes me laugh so hard when I think about it, so and that's it. I could have been mad. I mean, the only thing I was mad about really was the fact that, they were brand new pants,
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it was like, what can you do in that point? Being mad wasn't going to fix the pants. It wasn't going to make anything better. Honestly, all it probably would have done is draw more attention to myself, So, whereas as it was, we were able to get out of there discreetly. No one else knew without being told what happened. So, like there it is,
Exactly.
And I've always kind of been that way. I will laugh at myself so fast,
Mm-hmm.
and, even when others will say something to me sometimes. A great example, when I had a wisdom tooth out, last week or a week before last, whatever it was. And, I got home and I don't remember what it was I did. And, I was like, I'm like, I don't know why I did that. And my mom goes, well, you had a wisdom tooth out, so you're probably not as smart now. And I just lost it. I laughed and I laughed, so that became like our joke the rest of the day. Anytime I did something that was just not normal me or whatever, it was, like, well, I don't have that wisdom tooth anymore. So,
Well, all of that stuff, it's, that's what makes life.
Mm-hmm.
The ups and downs. You have to have the negative stuff. I mean, I could go on so many different stories about different things that have happened to me or I have caused to happen to me. Things that I have said, things that I have done. Oh my gosh. I've just made a mess of things before. One of my favorite phrases is from a song I'm sure you guys have heard me say it before, which is, oh no, I've said too much, but I haven't said enough. I'm a talker, as you all know. I use a lot of words to express not a lot of sentiment sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So quite often I will say way too much and not get my point across, but I haven't said enough. And every time that happens, I always remind myself, I'm like, opportunity. You can get better at that. Yeah. You can get better at this. Mm-hmm. So maybe one day I'll be succinct. Probably never.
Yeah, it is if you can just laugh at life, yourself, whatever, it's just it really helps. It's through some of the worst times that I've been through in my life, that's been the saving grace, is the fact that I can still laugh at this or that, or I can laugh at a certain situation, and and it's really helped to take some of the weight away from some of that stuff, and that makes a huge difference sometimes, And I mean, I laugh at the weirdest stuff. Like, I'll just happen to observe somebody doing something, and it'll be so funny to me, and then I'll tell anybody else pretty much, and they're just like, why is that funny? I don't, and it's like, never mind. It's just like, it's, there's some weird irony to it, or there's some just little bit of it that's really funny to me, but I have to explain it all out to someone else because their sense of humor is not quite the same as mine, so, but I do that all the time, and it has helped me so much, over the years.
It's one of the reasons I ended up getting married, is because my husband said at one point someone was asking him about me or whatever, and he said, how I knew she was the right one for me is when I showed her my worst flaws, and all she did was laugh.
Yeah.
He's like, that's how I knew she was the right woman for me. I'm like, I'll take it. But yeah, that's how you got to look at life. You got to laugh.
And I think your friends, a good indicator of whether you're hanging out with the right people are they the people that give you these same opportunities? Do they give you the opportunity to laugh at something? Do they give you the opportunity to try to do it better next time? Do they give you the opportunity to let something go and not revisit it? Mm-hmm. If they aren't giving you the same opportunities this article suggests we give ourselves, then maybe it's time to find a new sandbox to play in.
Yep.
Very good point.
And I think your work should be like that too. Mm-hmm. I know it's never. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
But I really think it should be.
It's the goal, though. It's kind of like the not perfection, but progress. I think it's kind of that way with work. Is like you said, you'll probably never have 100% on that. If you do, great. But most of the time, it's like. But yeah, I think that's why you see a lot of people. In a lot of ways, that's what causes the conflicts for people and stuff. Is that they. You just have two different personalities, and it sometimes positive negatives just clash, and for better or worse, you can't, it's going to be there most likely. So you just have to, that's why these things are so important, is because, in the end, you don't want to become the negative person at the office or one of the negative people, because, a lot of times when places are looking to maybe cut people, those are the kind of people that tend to get cut. Because they can tell that they aren't they're not helping the office morale, basically,
Yeah, I work next to a woman who has a tendency to go towards the negative, and me being the opposite, I have quite a lot of one-liners and positive, statements and stuff that I carry in my head. And I would keep throwing them at her. And one day she was being negative, and I kept throwing these little positive one-liners at her. And she just looks at me, and I'm like, hey, I've got 1 million of them. I can go all day long. You want to keep it up? And she just started laughing. She's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, all right, I'm just telling you ahead of time. I can just keep shooting these at you until one of them will hit, and one of them will get through.
Yeah. Well, like I said, for a long time, I was always the type that when people would say that stuff to me, I'm like, knock it off, like stop it, and now here I am, I've bought in on a lot of it. There's still a lot of it that I'm like, no, that I'll probably never switch my thinking on. But, there's also been a lot of it where I've really opened my mind to the at least the chance at positivity,
Yeah.
and that's a huge difference, because at least my brain doesn't go negative every time now, and again, progress, it's even if it's, instead of 100%, now it's 90% or 80%. It's like, well, that's a lot of success, and just keep working at it,
Exactly. Well, guys, what do you think?
Sounds like an episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, folks, you know what time it is. You want to join us. You want to continue the conversation. If you want us to talk about anything particular that you have on your mind, let us know. Reach out to us. Contact us. We want to hear from you. Please let us know what you're thinking. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with the G. You can also reach us on our website at the crazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also reach us via email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. And you, Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter. And you can also get a hold of us get a hold of me via all of our other locations that Brian will be happy to share with you.
Right. You can also find the show on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod, where I post when the new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. And that show is not safe for work. You can find us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast, where we have a bunch of really good links and stuff in our notes page or whatever over there, with like suicide prevention hotline numbers, NAMI.org, and all sorts of other things that kind of as I come across them, I add to that list. You can we're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please give them go to their website and check it out. You may find various other podcasts that you dig over there. Yeah, that's all those. So, if you'd like to help us out, we'd appreciate it if you're on iTunes, if you rate, review, and subscribe. That helps us, move up in the searches on, iTunes. Or whatever it's called now. Was it Apple whatever? I forgot what they changed the name to, essentially. Anyway, if you're using something like Stitcher or other apps, please use the like or share option for the same reason. It helps us move up in the search, so if people are just generically searching, we'll be closer to the top. And I guess that's all the links. And now I remind you, we're not doctors, therapists, or trained professionals, just three people sharing our opinions and experiences. Please don't replace therapy with this show. If you need help, please seek out professional help. As Henno pointed out during our article, sometimes doing all these little things are just not enough. And, when that's the case, therapists are there. That's not just therapists, but psychiatrists, your general practitioners. That's what they're there for, is to be a team of people that can work together and really help you get back on the right path and keep working to stay on that path. So please don't be afraid of taking that first step. And if you're feeling as though you may harm yourself or others, please contact a friend or someone, a suicide prevention hotline number or something. Just please don't be alone. And, try to find someone to be with you through the crisis. As well as, if you need the help, go to a hospital and tell them you're having a mental health emergency or, that kind of thing. And they should help you. But if please don't carry it through. Please, like I said, contact somebody. If you catch yourself writing like suicide notes or planning things, that's a perfect time to alert people. Let them know, hey, this is going on. Make sure they understand that this isn't, you're not, essentially it's that it's a big deal, even though it may not seem like a big deal. Make sure they understand this is a really big deal, and try, and at that point, if you need help, please get the help you need. And lastly, as always, I always ask everyone to reach out to people. Tell them you appreciate them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you miss them. Just call them and check in on them if you haven't in a while, or hit them up on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And, because you never know when you might make someone's day, or you never know when you might save someone's life.
Absolutely. And the words of Monty Python, some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle, and this will help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. There you go, folks. Talk to you later.